All right, welcome everybody. We're back. E3 is over. All right, it's finally over, but wow, what a showing by Nintendo. Not only Nintendo, Microsoft, Summer Games Fest. We had announcements like Elden Ring and Forza and Breath of the Wild 2 gameplay and Metroid Dread. I mean, just so much happened at this year's E3. If you want to see my highlights, be sure to check out my previous videos. I've got one for Xbox, I've got one for Nintendo. They're on the channel. Just go take a look. I'll link a card up here so you can click right in the video to get right to it if you need to. But in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the lack of a Switch Pro announcement, what this means for Nintendo, and based on everything they announced this year, do they really need one yet? All right, so I know this is getting long in the tooth. Relax. We're all here. We've heard everything going on. We've seen all the videos. I'm not the only one making a ton of Switch videos. Okay, I know that. There were so many things pointing at the Switch Pro announcement, though. Bloomberg reports, GameStop ad leaks, Amazon postings, all the usual stuff you get right before a big hardware reveal. But Nintendo fell silent once again. The mystery around the Switch Pro is a fascinating one. I don't think there has been this much smoke around something in the gaming industry with a complete lack of an announcement or reveal for as long as I can remember. Nintendo is not oblivious. We know that. They know this is all people are talking about, and other companies hear that and usually say things like, hey, this is not happening. But Nintendo didn't. They let the people talk, they let us speculate, and just let it be, which I thought was honestly quite strange. Not to mention, at the beginning of the Direct, Nintendo was all like, the Switch is in its 5th year, and so many people are enjoying the Switch and playing the Switch, and it's just all awesome and great and stuff. And I thought they were about to lead into say something about the Switch Pro and be like, oh, it's not coming yet, or it is coming, and even here it is, right? But nah, they didn't. They just left it at that. So today, I want to talk about one thing really. Does Nintendo need a Switch Pro right now? I'm going to preface this with, this is my last Switch Pro video for a while. I'm not going to fall into the hype train again. I'm not going to get crazy about these leaks and everything else. If Nintendo announces a Switch Pro down the line, I will make a video about it, obviously. But for now, I just want to answer this one question. Getting caught up in the hype and rumors is part of the fun of E3, right? Seeing leaks, having them revealed, and just comparing what was leaked to the actual reveal itself is always just a huge part of E3, and this year was a bit different, right? There weren't near as many leaks as usual. For example, Metroid, Redfall, Advance Wars, WarioWare, Forza. Like, I feel like in years past, at least a couple of those would leak out, but not this year. The biggest leak of all, and the only one anyone wanted to talk about, was the Switch Pro, and it was nowhere to be found. Last year, the Nintendo Switch had one of its best years in terms of sales throughout its entire life cycle. It was impossible to find a Switch last year, and all those people that bought up Switches, all the Animal Crossing special editions, Monster Hunter special editions, the incredibly cool Mario Red special edition Switch, like, people that bought those over the last few months back into last year would be incredibly disappointed to see that there's a far superior version of their console coming out so quickly. Essentially is supposed to and rumored to render their version of the Switch obsolete. That's always the price you pay in tech, right? Consistently waiting for the new thing will never leave you satisfied. So if you want something, buy it, right? If you need it, buy it. Well, that's correct in some areas of tech. Phones, computers, tablets, they release every year these days, so unless you buy one right when it comes out, there's probably a new one right around the corner. But with gaming systems, they are spaced out much further, and I think people would legitimately be upset if they felt their brand new shiny special edition console was outdated only a few months after buying it. Honestly, that was one of the thoughts and things that kept pointing to in my head when the Switch Pro rumors were spreading. Why would Nintendo release so many special edition consoles right before announcing a new Switch that is allegedly supposed to phase out these main consoles anyway? Why would Nintendo push people to buy so many Switches to just render it obsolete just a few months later? Another big reason I think Nintendo can hold off on a Switch Pro is that many of the new games announced at the Direct and this year in general wouldn't really require a Switch Pro to look great. SMT5, Metroid Dread, Skyward Sword HD, Mario Golf, None of these are graphical powerhouses or anything. No significant third-party games were announced. And with Breath of the Wild 2 coming next year and no information on Metroid Prime 4 or Bayonetta 3, I could see Nintendo feeling comfortable holding off for a bit on an announcement. 2022 might just be a huge year for Nintendo. I mean, they could release the Switch Pro next year. Like I said before, it's very possible that the Switch Pro will launch in close proximity to things like Breath of the Wild 2 and Bayonetta 3 and Metroid Prime 4 and so on. I mean, could there still be an announcement this fall? Yes, I think it's possible, but I do think it's super unlikely. I do think this is an announcement that Nintendo could just drop on any given day at complete random. They could absolutely and would love to wait until the last second when we least expect it and just drop a little video like, here you go, brand new Switch Pro hype. It comes out next month or something like that. I mean, this is how they handled the Switch Lite and the new 2DS XL. So I fully expect this to be the case for the Switch Pro as well. I don't expect them to be this big, extravagant Nintendo Direct or stage event or whatever. I think this is just going to be a random drop when we least expect it. Now let's touch a bit on how I think the Switch Pro could help Nintendo gain a bit more footing in a world where games like Ratchet & Clank, Forza Horizon, Horizon Forbidden West, and other ridiculously good-looking games are releasing for other consoles. Now, me personally, I love Nintendo. Go way back with Nintendo. I am a hardcore Nintendo fan, and I love my Switch. It's probably my favorite console. But I never consider Nintendo a true competitor to Sony or Microsoft. Nintendo marches to the beat of their own drum. They have proved time and time again that they don't need incredible graphics, 4K ray tracing, and all the teraflops, right? Nintendo makes amazing games and has some of the all-time best exclusives and IPs, but there always comes a point in the Nintendo console's life cycle where the games just start to look quite dated in comparison to the others. I can't help but look at some of the Switch games and notice how rough they look in comparison to other consoles, especially with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X now. And don't get me wrong, I still love the games. I can't wait to spend hundreds of hours in Mario Golf, for example. But I would absolutely love it if the Switch Pro can improve that a bit. That's just me. I know some people don't care about this stuff, but having the option out there is not only going to get this in the hands of people that do care about that stuff, but it will also give developers more leeway to release more third-party games on the console. I have trouble seeing things getting ported over as the years go by, and games get much more difficult to run on older hardware, especially when games stop being cross-generational and move to next-gen only. Now, we all know that Doom Eternal and The Witcher 3 are amazing feats that those things are even running on the Switch hardware, but games are going to start getting a lot more complex and a lot more taxing on hardware than those, and when that time comes, those ports from third parties just aren't going to happen. And one of my favorite things about the Switch is just the incredible third-party support and having the option to take some of these just incredibly large-scale games on the go with me. If I wanted to take Witcher 3, I can take Witcher 3 with me anywhere, and that was just unimaginable some time ago, and I want that to keep happening. I want third parties to feel motivated to port their games to the Switch, and a Switch Pro will likely be required in order for them to do that in the near future. Now, we could go on forever and ever about a Switch Pro, but it doesn't exist. And it probably won't exist anytime soon, so this will be my last video regarding the Switch Pro for some time, or at least until Nintendo actually announces one. Like I said, I'm going to try not to get caught up in the hype. If it leaks again, I'm going to try to step back, step away, and just wait, sit back and wait for Nintendo to actually announce it. So until next time, I'm out.